Before we start this conversation, I really want to be very open and very honest that, you know, it's like, it's such a blessing when somebody wants to share a conversation with you about your journey, about your exploration, about your victories, as well as your losses. So for Adam to do this is just such a moment that came from out of nowhere. And it's like, I don't know what to say, nor do I know what he's going to say. But there's no way I can prepare for this because, listen, here's the thing. I'm a show prepper. He's asking me the questions. I can't prepare the answers, so I'm really excited about him asking questions, and I hope he goes in a direction that so many people really, you know, wait. Let me put it this way. People ask the same questions of my journey. I'm okay with that. Because, you know, they all assume they know where I've been. And I'm hoping that Adam goes that direction in the way of going, no, we're not going to go where you've been, but what are you doing and how are you changing the future of broadcasting as well as podcasting? All right, here we go. He's there. So I've got to go in there and accept this conversation.
Oh, I hear you now. Yes.
You little rock star. What are you doing?
Well, I was looking forward to chatting with you, and have an interview proper with you, actually.
It's so funny to hear your voice and not see you because I'm such a radio person. So to hear your voice to me is like theater of the mind. I mean, that's what I love about being a radio person is that, when you don't know what the person looks like and how they're going to ask you the questions, that to me is the most amazing part of the journey.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I could not agree more. Yeah, I just, I do this mostly for fun because I just enjoy talking to people and hearing their stories. I mean, some of these things catch on and people enjoy them. I recently interviewed Guy Aoki, who was the mixer for American Top 40 during the last years that Casey Kasem was there.
Oh, well, yeah. I was up for American Top 40 in 1988.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, my God, dude, I'm so amazed.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yeah, I've done a little bit of my homework here. So.
Wow, I'm very blessed to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm blessed to have you, my friend. Yeah, this is great, and I appreciate it. And I'm actually going to try to tie this into my previous American Top 40. We're going to obviously talk about other things, but the American Top 40 thing seems to get the fans of that show interested, and we want to get as many people as we can listening.
Right.
Is the way I look at it. So if I say, if I kind of advertise it as, the almost host of American Top 40 and his stories, I think people will listen. I really do. I think they'll be intrigued. And so that's going to be my selling point.
Adam, not even a month ago, I was looking at the scripts they sent me, and I was sitting there looking at the letters they sent to me from ABC Watermark Incorporated, and it's so funny that you would even bring this up because I was just holding on to those things that were basically, what was it, 30, 40 years ago? I really did hold on to them in a way going, okay, I gave it my best shot. At least I can say I gave it my best shot.
Yeah, you I'm sure you did. I have no qualms about that for sure. But yeah, I interviewed Guy Aoki. He was the guy who was actually sitting in the recording booth when Casey had his famous meltdown.
Whoa, really?
He was there. Yeah, he was there, and he said, Adam, he said, you've got the audio in your head. You've heard the tapes. He goes, I've got the visual. He goes, I was there. I watched Casey throw his glasses across the console. And he said, it was fantastic. It was a really good interview. And actually Guy gave the eulogy at Casey's funeral. They were very close personally.
Wow.
So it was a very nice interview that I did with him. So, a lot of people listened to that, and I thought, and I knew a little bit about your AT40 story, and I thought, he's a guy that I think I should talk to because I think he's got, that's part of the story, but not the whole story. And so,
I think a lot of listeners don't understand what we go through as writers, performers, and producers. And so, I totally understand what you went through in talking with him because, him being in that room, you don't realize what the moment is all about. When things start to melt down in that moment, how do you regain control and composure? And it's one of the toughest toughest things that that the listeners don't understand. I don't expect them to understand. But as professionals, we've got to get a grip and get moving on, no matter what it is. But today, compared to when you heard his meltdown, that wasn't the digital age where you could go in there and splice that stuff out. That was tape. No. That was tape.
That's right.
Nowadays, I sit here and take notes as things are breaking down.
Yep, same here. Same here. When I there's a goof up, I make a note. Hey, I'll cut this out at such and such moment. But yeah, you're right. You don't. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. So yeah, but yeah, this session now, like I said, I'm limited to 40 minutes here. But if we go, if we're on a good groove, what I did with Guy, actually, the one I was talking about, the interview I was just talking about, Guy and I did the Zoom, and it ran out, and he said, there's more to tell. And I said, well, I'll just send you another link. So that's what I did, and we just picked it right up, and I spliced them together. And when you listen to it, you can't even tell there was two separate sessions.
But Adam, that's when you look at them and you say, hey, look, here's the thing. I want you to come back to this show, okay? The door is always open. Come back. Be brilliant. I'll see you later on. I mean, I'm always searching for the next conversation, not just the one that we're just having right now.
That's true. That is true. I have had some return guests. In fact, I've got one coming up next Tuesday. I'm going to tape one with a guy who he's got an online radio station, actually two. One of them's called The Retro Attic, and the other one is The Awfully Awesome 80s, and they're really good because he only plays songs that are not heard on commercial radio anymore. Like sold millions of copies, but you don't hear them anymore. Yep.
Kaja Gugu, too shy.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. So you get it. Well, listen, my friend, I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button, and we're going to go ahead and get this rolling. And like I said, if you feel like we want to go on after this session ends, and we can do that, or we can just make it a short one.
Well, first of all, I'm shocked, and I feel very blessed that you think that I could go 40 minutes, because I mean it's like in my life, I don't think that I deserve 40 minutes. I would be okay if you went 3 minutes. That because I've lived this life, and you're about ready to wear my shoes.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, I'm going to hit the record button, and here we go. I'll hit that button.
Recording in progress.
Oh, there. I know that sound. Woo!
That famous sound. Yes. So I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then we'll roll with it. And anything we goof up, I'll just make a note, and we'll trim her out.
Absolutely.
Okay. So 3, 2, and 1. Welcome again to another episode of Adam's Corner. I'm Adam Long, your host, and I've got a really interesting guest on today's show, and that would be Mr. Arroe Collins. And for those of you who don't know his story, it's quite an interesting story. I've got to tell you that. He was one of the voices of my teenage years. Growing up in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. He had a wonderful show that used to be broadcast every night at 10 o'clock, and it was called 10 at 10.
Oh, my God.
And it was a song where he would play, it was a show, rather, where he would play 10 oldies from a particular year at 10 o'clock. And he'll tell you more about that as we go on. I'm not gonna steal his thunder, as it were, but that's where I first became aware of him. And then through other circumstances, we have actually become friendly through other venues, and that's another story we can get into later. And this all ties into American Top 40, and we'll get to that too.
Adam,
so there's a lot to there's a lot here.
You need to understand, when I came down from Billings, Montana in 1985, Bill Conway did everything he could to let the managers know that I wasn't about just being a radio jock. And so when Bill Conway gave me the chance to do 10 at 10, I had to go to the library in Uptown Charlotte and do research. I mean, I literally spent so much time in all of these encyclopedias and all of these books, and I sat outside on my little patio area catching the worst burn of my life, because I was from Montana. I didn't know what Southern Sunshine was, and to put that show together, and then when it went syndicated, I was like, oh my God. So that's why I went syndicated, because I suffered in bringing this show together, but I was so dedicated and loyal into bringing what Bill Conway envisioned. It was such a moment for me.
Well, it was an amazing show. It really was, and it was very, very interesting, and and certainly something that I looked forward to every night that it was on.
God bless you. God bless you. Oh my God, you have no idea. You have no idea.
It was appointment radio. It really was. And the fact that you and I would eventually become friendly with each other and all of that, that never entered my mind back then. But isn't that funny how the world works? So anyway, we'll go back to the basics, and we'll basically I always like to start at the beginning and just talk about where you were born and raised. You kind of alluded to it there, and we can talk about your first interest in broadcasting, how that all came about.
Sheridan, Wyoming is where I was born. Billings, Montana is where I built my first radio station in my bedroom as a 13-year-old kid. I had a Mr. microphone. I could broadcast 100 feet from my house. And what I wanted more than anything in the world was for my mother to hear me downstairs. And so that's what that Mr. microphone was about. She could hear me up there in my bedroom through her own little stereo, because I could put it at 98.7. And that meant so much to me. And so, I mean, I did everything I could to always have a performance for my mother every day.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, I remember Mr. Microphone very, very well.
I still have it. Adam, I still have it.
That's too funny. And I bet it works.
Well, I'm sure it does, but it's like that was the one thing that when I went back to Montana in what maybe 1992, I went up into the attic of my bedroom and I made sure that I grabbed that microphone and brought it to Carolina, because I didn't want anybody else to have their hands on this microphone.
Yeah, it was like your lightsaber, if you draw a Star Wars analogy.
Yeah.
It's light shone the way, so to speak. Yeah, that's yeah, it was a beacon of light that you followed. Yeah, it's funny because we talk about this sort of thing and people don't realize what, it's so easy now, and we just take it for granted that we can, like what we're doing here, we can record a conversation and post it, and it can be literally heard all around the world. I have people who listen to my podcast as far away as New Zealand. Yep. I get occasional. I've got some fans out in the UK who listen to me regularly, and it blows my mind, to think that back then we could have never imagined, So just to have a Mr. Microphone where we could broadcast in our house we felt like we were really special when we had that sort of thing going on. Yep. So it's mind blowing. We couldn't have imagined all of this. So, yeah. So were you a music fan? I guess that's the next question. When you were growing up,
What's really interesting, Adam, is that I grew up listening to great pop music as well as rock music, and that really actually came and bit me in the butt in the way that I wanted to be on 99.7 The Fox so bad here in Charlotte, and I was typecast as an adult contemporary jock, and I remember Jeff Kent telling me that no, you've got an image, you don't need to be on my radio station, and I looked at him and I said, can I? You're not talking about the latest Black Sabbath album. I know about that because this is my life. And I walked down the hallway because he knew I was pissed off, and he says, I'm going to give you 1 minute every day to give me a classic rock report. And that's what changed my life forever. All of a sudden, that gave me a classic rock report, which led to me talking to Yoko Ono and everybody else ever since. And that's where the podcasting began, because he gave me 1 minute every day because I was so pissed off that he felt I was attached to Michael Bolton.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I didn't remember those rock reports. For some reason, that's something that I probably knew about it at the time, but it's a detail that I had totally forgotten. I worked as a promotions assistant at 104.7 myself in 1992, which is, I did. It was a temporary thing, and it unfortunately didn't really lead to anything permanent. But I worked for a lady who was over promotions, Kathy O'Neill, I think was her name, from what I remember. And so I would basically go and set up do all the equipment setups for the jocks who would come in and do their live promotion from such and such car dealership and all of that sort of stuff. So I did that for a while, and it was it gave me a taste of it. It was very interesting to me. And so, Jeff Kent's wife, Becky Kent, was at the station at that time, and she would do, I actually had some interactions with her, a really nice lady. and she did an oldie show on Saturday nights from 7 to 10.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. This is like circa 1992, probably like summer 1992. I'm thinking.
Wow.
But yeah, this is not about me. Of course, this is about you. But it's just I know a little bit of that of which you speak. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up. But anyway,
the thing about radio is that I swear that the greatest shows that could have been were silenced by program directors and consultants who thought they knew better. And that, that's what I love about podcasting is that, I mean, even when I go back and I look at what Gordon Ramsay is doing with his cooking shows, that man has 15 billion shows. And I'm going, oh, I get it. Because when creative people are set free with their ideas and their imaginations, we're given the opportunity to create at levels that listeners will one day discover. It doesn't have to be about now, but in the world of radio, it has to be about, well, how much of my ratings are going to be affected here? And it's like, man, you screwed up. You screwed up.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's true, and it's sad. It's sad to think about the things that may not have come to fruition because of such
oh my God.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to let you tell us a little bit about your trajectory, how you wound up in the Charlotte market. The steps. When you were in radio in the '80s, there were it's like you're taking baby steps to get you start with whatever station will take you. And then you just work your way up and eventually, get the bigger and bigger things, hopefully. And I was going to let you tell us about that trajectory. And did you have any formal training, or did you just go and, go to a radio station knocking on the door?
No.
Okay.
I started at the Billings Career Center in Billings, Montana. I knew what I was going to be at such an early age. And I went to Coin Radio when I was just a baby. I should have landed my first job at 14. And my dad wouldn't take me to Laurel, Montana. He says, that's too far away. And it's 15 miles from Billings. And I thought, nowadays, I drive 30 miles to do things. And it's like, why wouldn't my dad take me 15 miles to a radio station? So I had to wait till Coin Radio gave me that break. And so while I was in high school, I was a part-time jock on a country music radio station. And I was doing countdowns. I was doing specialty programming even on that country music radio station. And I'll never forget Lonnie Bell telling me, there's this band out of Tennessee, Clarence, that you're going to love. And what's going to happen is, Clarence, this band is going to be bigger than the Beatles. It was Alabama. And then he said, hey, there's this female performer. She's going to be so big, you're not going to ever believe that you were here when she started out, Reba McEntire. And it's like, holy crap, how is it that I'm able to be here in these moments of birth? And what am I going to do about it to preserve it for future listeners? And that's what that really drove me. So when I went from KOYN in Billings and then I went to KXLO in Lewistown, Montana, it was that I had to pay my dues. I always knew that. But the thing is that I went from Clarence to CT in Lewistown. When I came back to Billings, it was CT, but I was like, I can't stand that name because I can't be myself and be a radio guy at the same time because they're not one and the same. I need to come up with some sort of image. So when I went to Cook Radio, that's when I became Arroe Collins. And because all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I can breathe. Arroe can be left at the radio station. CT and Clarence can go home.
Yes, and it totally has worked. I mean, that's how we know you. So yeah, wise choice on your part, I would say. But yeah, and that's a great analogy about just leaving it at the station when you're done and becoming a regular person in your. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I really do. Yeah, so you get to Charlotte. Now, did you come to Charlotte from Louisville? Is that
no Charlotte? No, I came to Charlotte from Billings, Montana, because I was in. Listen, this is a true story, and I hope I don't offend anybody. I was in the Billings library with my very good friend Brian. Brian knew that I wanted to be very big in radio, and I was trying to get to Los Angeles. And he says, "Do not go the route of normal people in Billings, where they go to Boise, then they go to Spokane, and then they go to California." He says, "I need you to to go to the East Coast and then come back to California. You need to go find yourself. And Brian, he and I are still so close. And he goes, we need to go and we need to put you in a place where people don't know where you are, and you need to build it and create it. And so we found this radio station called Easy 104 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was sitting there in the library going, sleazy as a whore, sleazy as a whore. And he says, that's the one. And so when I sent the air check, it was, first of all, the first one went in a Diet Coke can. No, in a Coke can. And they didn't answer. And so I put the air check and the resume in a Coke can. And I said, oh, I didn't realize you were on a diet. So then I put it in a Diet Coke can. They didn't answer. So then I put it in a bounce box. And I said, look, I'm trying to take the static out of your relationship with your listeners. With this bounce, I can make sure that you have the greatest nighttime show you have ever had in your life. That's when they hired me.
Nice. Very good.
Oh my God. It was such a challenge. And I don't know why that I felt like I was so dedicated and determined to come to Charlotte. But, I've got air checks. My final show at Cook Radio in Billings, it says, I'm going to Charlotte, South Carolina. And you know what? When I turned in Spartanburg and it was going toward North Carolina, I went, oh crap. It's not in South Carolina. I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm living in North Carolina. I didn't know that.
That was a cruel reality, I guess, but turned out to be fortuitous, I guess.
Right. And then I went by the Giant Peach and Gaffney, and I'm going, what the heck is going on here?
Oh yeah. Yes. There's one right off of Interstate 85 for anybody listening who doesn't know. There's a Giant Peach literally right there as you go down 85 south at a certain point when you're getting near Spartanburg. So it's very, very it has to be seen. It must be. So anyway, so you get to Charlotte, and this is like I don't know, circa 1985. I'm thinking, yeah, okay. And so obviously when you get there, you're not doing 10 at 10. You're just kind of doing the late the night shift. I think you were doing at that time. And
yeah, and very bored, because it was like, I don't want to be just a jock. I've never been that guy. Even when I was at Cook, when I was at Coin, when I was at KBMY or KXLO or KLYC, it was always about specialty programming. I've always tried to do specialty programming because I didn't want to be that jock. And here's the reason why. Casey Kasem, American Top 40. That was the very reason why I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to be a jock on the radio. I wanted to be a storyteller. Yeah.
And you did that very well. You finally got your chance to do that after a while. And you alluded to it earlier with the 10 at 10. And so that was a concept that you just, was it something that had been gestating before you got to Charlotte, or was it something that just came to you when you were actually in the Charlotte market and
No, it was 100% Bill Conway. And what happened from that point forward, I did all the research in the library, and then I teamed up with the Associated Press, and all of a sudden I was collecting sound bites from everything. Listen, Adam, I have got every sound bite from the Iran-Contra affair. I have got so much sound from that era that I don't know what to do with it. I don't know who to give it to. I don't know who wants it, because we live in this generation of the internet where you can get it anyway. But I have documented it, and I have put it in a library where all of that sound is readily available. And it's like I really don't know what to do with it. But it was my addiction and my passion to save everything that was going on when it came to history.
Yeah, and that's, it's good to have that foresight, because, I was talking to Pete Battistini, who wrote the book about American Top 40. He's another guest that I've had on the show, and he has the largest collection of AT40 memorabilia. He actually has the actual index cards that Casey read when he was doing the year-end countdowns, like the 1975 countdown and all of that. He's got the actual index cards that Casey held in his hand when he was doing the countdowns. And Pete told me, he said, I just don't know what I'm going to do with this stuff. He goes, I've got all this, this large his collection was so big that when Casey Kasem came to do a benefit in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is where he lives, Casey actually came to his house and toured it. That's how big the collection was. So, but he doesn't know what he's going to do. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's a real problem because, none of us are getting younger, and, we hope to be around a while, but, we want this stuff to continue on in perpetuity, and we just, we have to think about these things. And so that was a problem that he was discussing as well. So it's similar to what you're talking about there.
I think one of the main reasons why I didn't get the job is because I was such a Casey Kasem fan that I sounded like Casey Kasem. Hello again. I'm Casey Kasem from American Top 40. And now at number 1 this week is that one love song that you really want to play at your wedding. And the thing, when you go back and you listen to the air check that I sent to ABC Watermark Incorporated, I mean, it's like, it's like, damn it. Why wasn't I myself? I just, it really hurt me so badly that I was trying to sound, but the thing about it is, it was Casey's script in front of me. And I really felt like that I didn't make it me. I made it about Casey because I was trying to honor him and keep his sound alive.
Well, yeah. Well, let's tell the whole story piece by piece, bit by bit, because it is an interesting story. I mean, obviously, Casey Kasem was in contract negotiations with Watermark, and things were not. I guess at that point it was ABC Radio. I think that they had bought out. Yeah. It was ABC at that point, and so ABC was not really. He wasn't happy because he felt like they were profiting, making, their profits kept going up and up and up, but his salary really wasn't going up that was commensurate to what they were doing in terms of ad revenue. And so he was not, that's the understanding I have. And so the negotiations went in, they really didn't meet what he thought was a reasonable amount. And so he was offered the opportunity at Westwood One to start his own competing countdown, which would have been Casey's Top 40, which debuted in January of 1989. He left AT40 in August of '88 with little fanfare. But he had a non-compete clause, so he could not do Casey's Top 40 for the remainder of 1988. So at that point, they had to have somebody. There was obviously a search going on for Casey's replacement, and this is where you come into the picture. So how did you find out about this? How did you hear about it? And
when I first heard about it, I sent this gigantic card. It must have been 3 feet by 3 feet out to the people at ABC Watermark Incorporated, and I said the sound is coming. Because 10 to 10 was in syndication at that time, and so I thought, okay, this is it. At the age of 25, I have found that place, and it was like I'm in the right moment at the right time. And so when ABC Watermark Incorporated reached out to me and they sent me scripts, I thought, holy God, please, this is it. This is it. This is what I've worked for my entire life. Because at the age of 14 and 15, I was doing countdowns in my bedroom. I was doing year-end countdowns on Christmas, and where everybody was with the family, but I was in my bedroom doing these countdowns that took 2 and 3 days to do. And because that's who I thought I was, and I still am. And the thing is that when that letter came in, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be. And the Charlotte Observer wrote this beautiful story about me, but also the Charlotte Observer wrote a story about me where I failed. And it's like, oh, and that's what I've held on to all of these years. It wasn't the victory of getting recognized. It was the victory of I failed. I didn't get the job.
Well, what you did get was a great story. And I always say there's no life experience that is truly wasted if you as long as you get a good story out of it. And you got there is a good story here because, now how close did it come? I know that obviously Shadoe Stevens got the gig and did it until 1995 when Casey's Top 40 eventually basically trumped the American Top 40 countdown, and I'm sure he was smiling to himself at some point. But that's another story for another time. But now because I know, I'm sure there was competition there, but I think from what I understand, it came down pretty close between you and Shadoe Stevens.
Top five. And let's be honest. Let's go ahead and look at Los Angeles radio, okay? Is that if you're going to make it in Los Angeles radio, get the radio station, and then you can build from there. Because look at Ryan Seacrest. He got the radio show and then got American Top 40. And the thing is, who was this guy from Charlotte, North Carolina? Why would he be here? And I totally respect Shadoe Stevens because he had an ad agency and he had history in Los Angeles. They needed somebody that had true roots in and being present and making sure that things went. And I, you know what? I love Shadow, but at the same time, I'm going, I'm Shadow Stevens, and this is American Top 40. Shadow, shut the hell up. You sound like a disc jockey. Why can't you tell me a story like Casey used to do?
Or like you did at 10 at 10. Yeah.
Oh my God. That was 100% Bill Conway. Bill Conway sat down with me and said, share the story. Share the story. Yeah. Make it feel like you were there. Yes. Although you have all of these sound bites and you listen, Adam, when it came to 10 at 10, there were no books. There was no internet. There was nothing. I had to physically go out there and make sure that I had the information that was very, very, very real. And I mean, because I had to do the research. It was hardcore, dig in, get it right, and move forward. And that's when I learned about the Vietnam War and the Gulf of Tonkin and stuff. I would have never known that if I did not know that what was going on in history through the elements of all these encyclopedias and all of these books. I had to do the research.
Yeah. And so you got something out of it, even though at the time you had a reason and a purpose for doing it. You know, it's something that served you well in the interim as well. And so, you know, again, not a wasted experience. So now, how many interviews, meetings did you actually have with the people at ABC Watermark? You know, I'm assuming it was multiple meetings.
A lot of letters. And then when it came to deciding time, I you know, it's one of those where the you know, they always say that when you're an actor or you're in the entertainment business, there's going to be a long period of time. It could be 6 months. It could be a year before you hear from them again. And it was a very long time. And so when I got the letter, sure, I really was very hurt. And let me tell you something, what happened here. And this is being transparent. When I got the letter, 104.7 did everything they could to comfort me. And Bill Conway said, I'm going to give you a countdown on this radio station so that you can still do what you love most. And I looked at him and I was being a real butt. I let my ego get away from me. And what he did was, because I was being such a jerk, he put me on overnight radio. I remember going to Uptown Charlotte on the corner of Trade and Tryon and literally falling to my knees on that corner and crying so hard because at that moment in time, I felt like I was a failure because I couldn't live up to my dreams. My dreams failed me, and I didn't want a radio station to feel like they had to baby me. It was such a hard moment in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been just really crushing. I can't imagine, because, you know, you came so close, and, you know, to get that close to the prize, as it were. I mean, that's you know, it really is tough when, you know, the result is not what you had wanted
right.
or hoped for. And so, yeah. Now, did you actually fly out there and do an interview with them? Like, you know, in addition to the letters, did you?
I wish, because I think if they would have saw my passion, they would realize that there was something there more than Shadow Stevens. I'm not knocking at Shadow Stevens, but I think if people see the passion that I have about sharing the story and being with the artist and sharing their journey and really bringing things forward, that to me is what opens up the door. And I think that's the reason why even today I get the biggest names in music as well as the newcomers, because my passion is to share the story, or someone is going to write it for them, and I don't want that to happen. And so therefore I think that negative moment in my life became the fuel of my present day. Yeah,
well, and that's a good fuel to have, you know. And like I said, it's you know, there's a story there, and it is a you know, and when things don't turn out the way that we had hoped for, they sometimes there's another prize waiting in another way. There are other gifts that we have and that come to us as a result of not getting what we think we want. So there's that too. And we can talk about, you know, just real quickly about what's happened in your life, the life path you've taken since the days of 80s radio and all of that, because that's an interesting story too.
Well, it's the fear of being fired. That's what controlled 26 years of my radio career, the fear of being fired. Basically meaning that you want me to jump how high? Okay, I'm there, because I don't want to be fired. And then when I was finally fired, it was like, whoa, whoa, what happened here? It's like what I wish I would have been fired earlier, because now I have a new thing that I can build a platform on. And that's the thing about it, is that once things started to separate in the corporate world of radio, all of a sudden I realized, wait, I'm doing their job. I'm playing their part. I'm doing everything they want me to do, but nobody is playing what I see, what I envision, what I dream. And so when I left terrestrial radio in 2015, that to me was the greatest moment of my life, because all of a sudden I was in control. Even though I used the same tools that I was taught all of those years before me, 36 years of radio, the thing is that I'm in control. I get to make the decision. I get to decide that, oh, well, that's not something that I want my listeners to do. I'm going to change this out. But the thing is that it's not in other people's hands, where a consultant would say, yeah, he's not fitting the role. Well, what do you mean I'm not fitting the role? I am the role, because I know who my listener is. But let me tell you something, Adam. I'm going to tell you something. I'm wrong in that, because until September of 2020, I thought I knew who my listeners were, until I landed that job at Harris Teeter. And when I was right there with those people in that grocery store in 2020, everything changed in that moment. And I would love to go back to day one of radio with the knowledge that I have of who real people are in this day, because I didn't know. I was all about research. This is what the research shows that your listener is doing. This is who she is. This is how many kids she has. This is the car she's driving. But at a grocery store, it's wrong. It's absolutely 100% wrong.
Yeah. And it is interesting how you wound up there, but and it's great, because like you said, you actually get to hear people's real stories in the real world. And that is a blessing too. That's a real gift. And for a bit there you worked, it was at iHeart, right? And you were doing
many years.
And your position there exactly was, I know you were working there, but I wasn't exactly sure what the official position was.
Production director. I was in charge of production, because I believe that commercials on the radio do not care about the listener. And they will spend thousands of dollars, these advertisers, for people in radio to give them the opportunity to put their sound out there. But they don't care about the listener. My goal was to develop a relationship between the listener and the client. I was the freak. I was the weird one. Nobody understood what it was that I was trying to do. And because I believe that if you're going to come into our station and spend $3,000 or $40,000, I want to put you in front of that listener in the way of being somebody who can help change their lives. Hey, Arroe, can you just stop being an artist? And we need flow. It's called cash flow. The client doesn't understand what you're saying. Just please shut up and do your job.
Yeah, that can be a bit tiring, to say the least. And I can imagine. Yeah, that gets old, as they say. Yeah, and so you and I didn't get to this part, but I will real quick. It's that you had done some. I am a part-time film critic, and there are a lot of press screenings that I get invited to. And you worked for Allied, which is one of the companies that holds these press screenings. And so you were organizing or overseeing some of those, I guess you would say. And that's how you and I connected on a personal level. And so that's another feather in your cap, as it were.
Well, first of all, I didn't like movies at all until I met my wife of 32 years. And so for this opportunity to be with people, Allied, and everybody else involved, this is part of the full vision. It's about people connection. And that's what I love about it, is that people are coming to see a movie. The critics are there. And everything that unfolds and takes place is such a beautiful moment. And more people don't understand that. But of course, I can't talk about it on any podcast or radio show, because that's a conflict of interest. But the thing is, though, is that as a regular, everyday person, just to be there to help serve people is so important to my life and lifestyle. And
that's a good message. Everybody should follow that life philosophy. I think. I think we'd all do better if we did. Well, it looks like the time is just about up on this this edition of Adam's Corner. But I just wanted to thank you for coming on and telling us your story, because it is an interesting story.
What did you learn? What did you learn, Adam? Because that's the teacher in me coming out now, because I've been a broadcast instructor since 1988. What did you learn?
Well, I learned that you hailed from Montana and made your way around to various markets, and through fortuitous circumstances found your way in Charlotte. And I found out about the beginnings and of 10 at 10, how that all came to be, and your AT40 story is interesting too, how close you came. So those were some things that I got from this this interview, and where the journey your life has taken you now, where you're actually out there interacting with people and getting their stories.
Yeah.
So those are things that I took away from it.
And I'll tell you
it's
what,
a good story.
If you ever want to hear old 10 at 10 episodes, I've got them. I saved everything.
Would love to.
And
would love to.
Oh my God! And I put them up on Spreaker, which is attached to iHeartRadio. Dude, they blasted the crap out of me. They took it down so fast because it's music. They didn't see the art of what it was all about, but because it's copywritten music, I understand. God bless them, but it's a side of radio that is being long gone and forgotten. And I wish they would just let that go and let the performance happen.
Yeah, I wish so too, because I'd love to hear some of those again. Well, my friend, I'm going to let you go because it looks like we're getting ready to get cut off here. So I'm going to end it right there. But let's maybe we can pick this up in the future and talk about some of the changes in radio since the 80s and what your thoughts are on those. That would be an interesting topic, I believe.
Oh my God, such a blessed moment tonight. Thank you so much.